Okay, so we're live, everyone. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about O13.2, making sure there are no open issues that I am forgetting about or that we should discuss. And then I'll give the stage to Mikolai to talk about the offsite that we had. I heard good things, so hopefully we can draw some concrete action items. Okay, so I'll start with O13.2 and feel free to join in, especially if you think I'm missing something. Okay, so we had RC0 of the Blockier. It had a bunch of replay issues, which were then fixed on the main branch, main O13.2 specifically. Now I think we reached a point where we covered all the known discrepancies. Thanks a lot, Christian, for helping uncovering those. As far as I understand, the situation is as follows. For any flow related to estimation, we need to use the Blockier for execution and then apply some internal function to get the estimated fees and resources. And also, the resource vector needs to be compared to the minimal resource vector. That's for estimation. So there are two extra operations on top of execute that need to happen to get the correct result. For replaying mainnet or the actual transaction from the actual environment, we basically take the info as is from the Blockier output. So feel free to disagree, or I will also write it on the channel to make sure we're all aligned. But I think it's important to make sure we avoid different replays between Juno, Pathfinder, Kazaa Labs, or Papyrus. I think we had those before, even specifically related to the minimal gas vector. So it's very easy to miss. And it's pretty subtle, as I saw this week, or realized this week. Okay, so as far as I'm aware, these are the only open issues, and they're all going to be fixed on the next Blockier RC, which may be released today. If not today, it will be on Monday. Yes, Christian.
Just wanted to add that we also might have an issue with reverted transactions. So I'm still getting those issues with L1 gas, which we'll need to verify with a reverted transaction on the O13.2 integration network, I think.
Okay, that's unfortunate. This is also with the main O13.2?
Yes, this is with the latest state, but so we've discussed this previously, and it looks like we'll have to wait for an O13.2 reverted transaction so that we have the L1 gas commitment in the receipt, which was missing for older ones. Up to now, I was only able to verify the old transactions, which, as we've agreed, don't really matter because L1 gas is not really visible anywhere.
Yeah, I've discussed it, and if what you're worried about is for the gas that appears in transaction execution info, whether or not it reflects the one that affects the receipt hash, it is. It goes through no further manipulations. Whatever is the output of execute, that's what going to the input of the hash computation.
Okay, that should be fine then.
Okay.
Thank you.
This is not reflected in the Blockier because there's a chain of services from the Blockier to the hash calculation, but that's the flow.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I understand.
Okay. Anyone else, or we're moving to talk about the offsite?
We talk about the way to prove that a block body is true through the block hash on the
Yes,
chat.
I can say a few words about that. So that's what we come up with. There's a problem. What do you do with the prefix of the chain? The block bodies are not bound to the block hash. That's why we are changing the block hash to bind a lot of the properties that were served in the RPC but were not committed to, like receipts. Okay, so what do we do for the prefix? Block hashes remain the same. We're not touching block hashes in the past. What we can do is basically hard code the new block hash when computed over the old block bodies. And in that way, you can get a collection of pairs, old block hash and new block hash, hard code it at the node level. So you get 600K pairs of hashes. And when you get a block from peers, first you look at the actual block hash, which the feeder signed on. That's how you know it's related to the chain at all. But when you're getting the body, you use the second hash. That's the suggestion.
And so it will be shared. So imagine I fetch block 100. The old block, the new block hash will be shared. Only the old block hash will be shared, and the new block hash will be calculated locally, and compared across the hard written.
And
Okay.
ahead of time, we're gonna have to agree on it. I'm guessing there will be issues because block 0 had a bunch of fields which maybe don't have a clear mapping into the current structure, but we'll figure those out, end up with some hashes that we can reproduce across the teams, and then continue to keep this file until regenesis.
And the new commitments are still applied to all block bodies, right?
The new commitments are still,
To
I mean,
new block, all block.
They will be used to compute the new block hash, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect.
Okay. Yorick?
I'm a little scared to ask this, and I'm sorry, Ariel, in advance. But yeah, like what's the current state of play? That's what I want to know.
The current state is we're kept busy by shorter time problems. I don't have a good answer on that. Yeah, I just don't want to say whatever pops into my mind. I agree we need more clarity on this, and I'll try to have something more meaningful for the next meeting, but not in the upcoming 6 months. So this solution will serve us for a while.
Understood.
Okay, so if there's no one else, then Nikolai, the floor is yours.
Right. Okay. Now you put me in frame. Guys, again, I mean, I feel like we are speaking too often about this, but let me thank again to anyone who's been to Brussels and Belgium last week and who participated in especially the hacking day and the offsite talks and lectures. What I felt would be good to show is, and is anyone allowed to give me the screen sharing capability?
I think I can, yeah, you can share screen. Let's hope there's no disaster.
Hopefully not. There's just, bear with me. I'll just share this one then. And you should be now seeing my screen. So that was the goal of the hacking day, to fill out the compatibility charts, as in try to put all the node implementations together in one network and actually make them talk to each other. It was so exciting to see that we started from a blank sheet, like matrix, and we've been seeing those ticks appearing in it. So first, the nodes started discovering themselves, and that was pretty much seamless as far as I recall. And by the way, guys, butt in if I'm talking rubbish. Eric, you're shaking your head. Well, I mean, after the first hour, the first chart was filled in. Then we moved on to syncing the headers, and that was empty in the beginning. But then we've seen the ticks appearing in those boxes, and we also identified some gaps still. And this is also good to know, because we know now, okay, what do individual teams need to complete still in their implementations. I'm just wondering, because I mean, Christian, would you be able to give us a quick summary of what was happening with Pathfinder, in a sense of where are we with Pathfinder header sync capability? I think that was also green, was it?
Yeah, I tried to fill in this this table, but didn't quite understand what. So the left column is the polling node, right?
That's correct.
And so then in the first column there, what does Pathfinder and Juno mean?
The Pathfinder is pulling from Juno and is able to sync from it, and the statement.
Okay, but then why the two check marks there?
Because I was hoping for a statement from the Pathfinder team side and from the Juno team side. It's
okay.
looking good from both sides.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't quite clear to me how I'm expected to fill these in.
Fault on my side, but then how did it look then?
So this is Pathfinder pulling from Juno.
Yep.
Unfortunately, that pretty much doesn't work, because Juno is not sending some author into related header fields, which Pathfinder requires for header sync, like state diff length, and I maybe I forgot the others, but the short story is that once these are added, then header sync up to the latest L1 point does work.
Those are not yet part of the spec, right?
I think they are.
The length.
Apparently, there's some discrepancy that some fields that really show up only in 032 blocks. I think some of those fields, like receipt commitment or state diff commitment, have already been added to the P2P spec, which, as far as I understood, Juno doesn't implement, because they didn't really need those for syncing from the feeder gateway. And they didn't want to implement these things twice, because it has also changed. So there was a state diff commitment used for the signatures, the old one, and there's a slightly changed variant that is now being used for 032 state diff commitments, right? So I hope that once all teams implement 032 compatibility, we'll be in a much better shape with respect to P2P syncing as well.
Point taken. I mean, we should be close to it, so actually we should be able to repeat those integration tests with 032 capabilities in. Yeah.
Apparently, there were some problems with some other kind of problems too, which we managed to work around during the hacking days, and we are working on fixing those. Like Pathfinder used a slightly different variant of node discovery and things like that. So there are a couple of other things we are working on, which are required for all this to work. But some work is also must be done on the Juno side.
Appreciate it. Was Pathfinder able to sync from itself?
Yes.
Lovely.
At least up to the latest L1 state. That's what we are currently capable of syncing. So.
And Papyrus?
I don't remember correctly, but I think we first sync Papyrus from Pathfinder, and then we were able to do header syncing from Papyrus, as far as I can remember. We probably should confirm this.
Yeah, will do.
But this is what I remember. But this was fairly late on Friday, so maybe
Exactly
my
that.
memory is not quite correct.
But I remember this tick being filled in like really in the late afternoon. So that was
Absolutely,
like literally
yes. This
at the
was
end of the
pretty
day.
much the last thing we've been working on before
That was
Dan had to leave. So
indeed. And that's header syncing. And the third table is about the rest, which is like block and state syncing. And so we have some gaps in that already. So I suppose there's no point in going to them in detail. However, what this table gives us, it gives us a much better view of work items still to be completed within respective clients, and that's good to know. And I feel like this state or this snapshot from last Friday is a good lead into the discussion about the P2P implementation. So how do we want to move forward with this? And we did have a set of topics or concerns to cover, which I would very much love everyone's buy-in into. So therefore, I did publish this table of concerns, which basically summarizes the points raised on Thursday and Friday. And I see comments and input from and opinions from Shahak filled in already. I cannot stress enough how important it is and how appreciated it would be from the rest of the teams as well to post their opinions in here. And I would like to distill them into the actions. So just to go over those concerns or topics that we covered. Wojtek did present the proposed split and approach to P2P testing, and that included integration testing, as in testing of the P2P implementation per each of the nodes. And he proposed one particular tool as a platform to develop the automated test suites in, and also that platform could be used as point of convergence for the test suites, which all the teams could contribute to and to make use of. The tool is actually by Aquariumnauts, and it's called Zapurat. So, I mean, are you guys okay? Are you not okay? Do you think it's worthless? Do you think it's not? There's no point in agreeing on a common integration testing tool. On the Netherbyte side, we feel we want to get on with this, and we would like to use it actively. It's a matter of, do we want to reuse or share this experience? Then there was a discussion on the ability to run end-to-end testing on P2P on so-called simulated networks, and having the ability to actually stand up whole networks of Starknet locally or like in an isolated way with instances of the feeder gateway so that we could simulate the whole flow. And the comment from Shahak was that it is not easy to just give the feeder gateway or the sequencer as a component to be run by anyone else, but he declared that he would be okay if to start new instances of it if need be and required by other teams. Do you guys have any opinions on that? Is it worth the effort? Is it actually useful for running end-to-end testing of the P2P networks? That's where your opinion is kindly appreciated. And also, assuming that simulated networks are useful, then we are proposing kurtosis as the tool to, again, converge when it comes to test case and test suite planning. So we would like to use it and write the test cases in kurtosis so that everyone can contribute and everyone can benefit from that. So also all that, sorry?
What's the relationship between kurtosis and Zapurat? What are the...
So we felt that Zapurat is more applicable for automated test scenarios executed against a single node, a single client implementation on the P2P interface. That would be based pretty much, bombarding a given node with P2P messages and validating the responses. Whereas the end-to-end is running whole networks and executing various scenarios in those networks.
And for that, we'd need something like injecting feeder gateway responses to.
That's well, I mean the first idea is to be able to simply launch a feeder gateway or a feeder gateway mockup and actually have the network connect to it and work with it. I do appreciate it may not be easily doable, and hence ask for your opinions on that.
Okay, probably can set up some mock with some pre-made responses, but yeah, let's. I'll think about it offline as well.
Thank you, sir. The general idea of having a shared and public test repository was brought forward, and we feel like it could be a beneficial idea for many reasons. One is, well, we could share the test cases and we could use them across all the clients, but also they could serve as a sort of definition of readiness criteria or compliance criteria for the nodes. So, for example, we can agree on a certain set of test cases or test suites in that repo and decide that all the nodes need to pass those tests for us to be ready to launch the public testnet. That's just one example. Also, test cases are a good specification of functionality, usually. Having that public way of actually expressing how the Starknet nodes behave, it would be beneficial, I think. So, what do you guys think? Are you in line with an idea of this being part of the Starknet IO org on GitHub, etc.?
We have just to sync. We talk with the Starknet Foundation, and they are behind the initiative of finding a dedicated team to work on that. They already received 2 proposals, and one of them seems better than the other. So we will probably go with them to build a StarkHive test suite.
Do you mind putting this as input on the table here?
Yeah, I will do.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Testnets. How many testnets? Apart from the normal default public testnet, we did propose to actually run a shadow testnet, which would be almost like a devnet for Starknet integration purposes. What do you guys think? Do we need any more? Do we need any less? I would like to get us to a consensus there as well. By the way, Jorik, you've also launched, and we've launched the publishing of the set of bootnotes of Juno. Presumably that's part of this shadow testnet idea or the internal testnet, so that's not public, is it?
Yeah, that would just be a small testnet. There's no. I think that would actually just be following Sepolia, so it would be shadow, but like in this sense, we don't need to do any architecture at all. We just sync those boot nodes from Sepolia, and we let the rest of the network operate off of those nodes. I think it's the simplest way to get started, and basically has shadowing available. There was one point I think Tomasz raised, and I think we all kind of agreed on in the call, and this isn't part of my notes, but I think it's probably one of the big takeaways. We should start treating Sepolia more like a production environment for the devs working on top, and basically have another layer of networks to test on below them. Now that the transaction formats have been quite stable for quite a long time, I think we can start making shadow forks of the mainnet, and the testnet environments, test most of the infra there, and wait for the full nodes to be ready and deployed on that network, so that when we transition to Sepolia, it's just for the applications to start integrating their stacks, right? Like Sepolia should be stable for them and should feel like a production network, just n months ahead of mainnet, and then mainnet is where mainnet. So how does that sound, Ariel? Does that make sense to you? Or does it seem outlandish? This is how it works in Ethereum, by the way. This is yeah.
What does it? I'm not sure. What does it change from how we thought about it so far? You're running a shadow fork of Sepolia, basically.
this is more general for all network updates. So right now what we do is we do integration, then we go to Sepolia, then we go to mainnet, right?
Okay.
And then like what happens a lot is like we're on Sepolia and one of the nodes is an issue. That's key breaks. Yeah. So what I would like to do is integration, shadow fork of Sepolia and mainnet at the same time. Then Sepolia, mainnet. And I think this is a pretty strong way to increase the robustness of our network, but it does also increase our costs considerably. So it needs to be discussed.
Yeah, I'm not sure off the top of my head. Probably we're going to need something more robust than N weeks on integration that only sees transactions from us, basically.
So what we're proposing right now is Juno has some basic sequencing capabilities in there. I think Asar Labs, Deoxys or Madara now, I guess they call it Madara from now on. Madara has the same. So we use those as sequencers, replaying the same transactions from Sepolia and from mainnet in real time. And then
what do we do for testing? Probably a dumb question, but completely new stuff. Okay, now we have a new compiler, circuit sleep funks. How do you go about making sure those are reflected?
Don't know.
A new EVM code. I have no idea how they treated those back in the day.
Okay, let's continue the conversation later. We're running out of time, but this is worth it. Yeah, Nikolai.
Thank you, sir. So actually, where I would like us to wrap up in this round is to try and agree when are we ready to launch the testnet, because the goal is to try and actually come up with some timelines, provisional timelines that we could then try to stick to. And that's where I will finish the review of this table. And let me just reiterate, ask for the participating teams to help me build this and provide and contribute with inputs. And I would like to work over the next few days with you guys to distill tangible actions from that, if that's feasible. So that's where we are.
Thank you. Please share it also in the internal channel, and yeah, we'll try to have more details here by the next meeting.
Will do. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. See you.